welcome to the Remember Me podcast. I'm Maria.
And I'm Rachel.
And we're your hosts.
And we're very happy you're here with us today.
Remember Me is dedicated to preserving the memories of those affected by dementia and the families walking alongside them.
We've created this space for you to feel more connected and supported.
And we hope these stories allow for a deeper understanding and a sense of belonging.
And to shine a light on our motto, accept the good.
Always, always accept the good.
This is Remember Me.
Okay, so today we're here with Catherine. And Catherine, you're going to tell us all about your husband, Al. So welcome to Remember Me.
Thank you.
So we're going to jump right in. And the first question is always the same. And that is, what was the first sign that something wasn't quite right with Al?
It came on pretty gradually, and I felt like he was less and less on top of things. But I would say the first sign that was really obvious was after he had surgery and for a hip, and we would walk in the neighborhood, and he started yelling at the cars going by that he thought were going too fast. And he would scream out, "The speed limit's 25." And it was
first.
rather embarrassed.
Sure, right.
And I had no idea that there was a dementia that would cause that.
What year is this, and how old is Al at this time?
Al at this time is in his late 50s. I want to say 59 or so.
Okay.
It would have been about 2007.
Oh, wow. Okay, a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, this all happened a while ago.
Okay. All right. Okay, so he's starting this new behavior of hollering at the cars going by. What happens next? What do you see? What sort of kind of sparks that, like, okay, I'm going to start taking notes, like something is way off here?
And maybe other things were happening at the same time.
Sure.
He was picking fights with our daughter, who was a teenager, and the two of them were kind of sparring a lot. He had some disinhibition. One of the things he did, he was still working. I was still working. The kids were in high school or college. And he, for like the only time this ever happened, he found out about a reunion and that he wanted to go to, and he arranged to go and did the whole thing on his own. And usually he was reticent to make plans like that. And I could tell he started talking about a girl in high school that he might have had a crush on.
Oh, wow.
Some weird stuff, you know. And here's the big thing. I think this often happens. I was irritated.
By the girlfriend or by all of these behaviors?
By him in general. And I think when the spouse becomes irritated, that's kind of your first sign that something's going on.
Good point. Yeah.
Is it bad? Like, I get irritated sometimes now.
No, I think it's a different.
It's like at a level that you're like,
I was actually going to ask that. Like, I remember watching my dad as like a child looking up to a parent and being like, something's not right. But watching your spouse kind of shape shift, right? Like, what are you thinking at this point? Like, he's going through a rough time? Or are you more like, stop?
I was thinking he was kind of a jerk.
Okay.
I was also quite aware that his dad had died of dementia. I thought Alzheimer's. And so I was on the lookout for signs, but I was expecting it to be asking the same question again and again.
Typical. Yep.
And he had never had good navigation. He had been lost a number of times, but he also did get lost. It was like more important for him to find the place where the meeting was than it was to actually go to the meeting. I mean, he was that uptight about his navigation.
And did you ask him, Al, you're not acting like the Al I know. Like, did you question him about it?
No, and part of the reason for that was that he was so, trying to get the right word here, defensive.
Mm.
He'd get
Mhm.
mad. Oh, you just always blame everything on me.
Explain it away. Yeah.
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 Oh, brother.
Yeah.
So did you guys go to the reunion?
He went to the reunion by himself.
Oh.
I mean,
What
I had to stay
happened
home with the
there? I hope
kids.
nothing
Oh,
bad.
yes, of course. Right. The kids.
How old are your
Yeah.
kids at this time?
High
Are they
school,
still
I think.
home?
At least one of them is, maybe both.
school and
I
college.
don't
Oh, that's
exactly
right.
remember this
Sorry.
reunion
Okay.
part, but I just remember it happening and being kind of surprised. Oh, he's flying to Portland.
Right.
Oh,
Bye. I'll hold down the
okay.
fort. Have a good time.
I mean, here it was arranged. It wasn't like he
Sure.
ran off,
Sure.
but it was other times we had gone to things like that together.
Okay.
But the logistics was different.
Okay.
So what, like, how did it escalate to the point where you had to find answers?
So first, we worked for the same agency. We worked for the Schools for the Deaf and the Blind. We were both within the School for the Deaf, but he was in a different division than I was. But I got wind from a colleague that he was having some issues with the person who was kind of in charge of his division. And then he came home one day and said, oh, I met with my boss and the HR director, and we talked about some stuff, and they think I need to learn more about how to use the computers. And also he was starting to have little fender benders, and he had always been an excellent driver. So he had actually had a fender bender in one of the state cars that he drove. And I said to him, you know, Al, you're 60. You have enough years in the system. Why don't you retire? Because I could tell he couldn't quite fix things. But in the meantime, I wasn't going to take him to a doctor. First of all, I didn't know how I'd get him to one because he was in denial. But also, I was pretty sure that it was quite possible that we would go to somebody and they would blame me. So I held off. So 2 years after he retired, I finally was able to come up with a way to get him into the doctor.
And during those 2 years, I can assume that the behaviors just increased.
Yeah, it was pretty gradual, as I said.
Okay.
Oh, he got a part-time job doing something he should have been able to do, and that only lasted a month. So in retrospect, he probably wasn't understanding the directions.
Sure. Sure.
And he thought that just hanging out with the kids was enough. Hanging out with the kids at school, that is.
Right. So you get him into the doctor. Is it straightforward? This is FTD. Good luck. Like, what happened? Tell us, your experience getting the diagnosis.
So I had to finesse getting him into the doctor.
Yeah.
And a friend suggested that I have him go to a regular physical, which I had started attending with him recent years. And that I call the doctor's office ahead of time and say, look, I think there's something going on with Alzheimer's or something here. Do you suppose the doctor could screen for this and tell him that he checks everybody who's over age 60? And thank goodness the doctor did that. He was just the general practitioner. And Al aced the screener, but the doctor took me into the hall and said, look, I believe a family when they come to me. So do you want to go to the University of Utah and get this worked up? And thank goodness, I later found out that doctor was so helpful because his own father-in-law had FTD.
Wow.
So I got lucky.
I think that, you found a needle in a haystack.
An angel appeared.
Because normally, nothing's wrong. He's fine. No.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to go see a neurologist. Come back in a month, come back in 2 months, and we'll keep our eye on it. So for him to give you that little nugget to go to the University of Utah was probably pivotal in your journey.
We've also heard from spouses the frustration of going to a doctor and the doctor doesn't believe them.
Yes.
So for him
Right.
to pull you aside and say, I believe you, how did that make you feel?
Validated.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to give it away.
You're like, okay,
Well, I'm glad you
I'm
gave
not
me the
crazy.
word.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah, it probably felt good.
Yeah.
At
You
least
know,
someone...
interestingly, though, I kept looking forward to having a diagnosis.
Mm.
And then about 8 months later, when it came, it was like, oh, good. But it wasn't like, yay, I know now.
Right.
It's such a hard thing to hold because you feel relieved. Like, okay, he's
I have an
not
answer.
just a jerk.
Yeah.
There's a reason his brain is changing. But then it's like, I don't want this.
Right.
I don't want either. I want
And you
Al
read
back.
about it online and you're like,
Yeah,
how is this gonna
coming.
go?
Yeah.
So what year are we in now with the diagnosis?
The diagnosis I was in 2009.
Okay.
Oh.
And I worked for one more year and then I retired.
Okay.
Was Al present when you guys got the diagnosis? Was he with you?
Oh, yeah.
And did he emote?
He hated that doctor. He
Yeah.
hated that neurologist.
Yep, I'm sure.
There was a point where there was like a doctor in training with the neurologist. I think when we had our diagnosis, I think that was the appointment. I was asked, what was something that caused me to come in? And I mentioned how when I called Al on the telephone once to get something from him, he kept saying, Catherine's not here. And I said, no, I'm Catherine. No, Catherine's not here. And Al at that point reacted with, you're telling stories on me. You shouldn't tell stories on me. But, with HIPAA, you kind of have to the patient has to be there. And that is one thing. I think more and more neurologists are beginning to understand that they need to get around that somehow because it is hard to talk frankly.
Yes.
And also what helped me was I kept some notes and I typed them up. When we'd go to an appointment, I would ask the receptionist to put those notes in the file so that then the doctor could read them discreetly.
Great idea.
Yeah, that's a very good
That's
tip.
a nugget. That's
Yeah.
a clip. Yeah.
Yep.
I never thought of that. I would try to look at my dad's doctor and be like, he's eating a lot.
Right.
And my
right.
dad's doctor would be like, you're hungry? What are you doing?
Yeah,
It's so hard to, I don't like the word weasel, but finagle around to get just to the doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's diagnosed. Are your kids involved in any care, decision making, anything like that? Like, I understand as the child, we had another parent kind of running the ship in a way. What did your kids think? Were they upset? Like, were you having to hold their emotions on top of everything else?
They were both pretty disgusted with their dad by that point. And my son was, I think, a senior in high school that year. My daughter was in college. My daughter would come home from college and say, Mom, when are you going to do something about Dad? Because she could see the changes that were so gradual. And my son was kind of, when you're a teenager, particularly a boy, you're kind of separating yourself from your family.
I know.
I don't want that to happen. Okay.
He was kind of that way, definitely.
In that space of teenage boy with the door closed.
Yeah.
Let me knock on that. Get in there and hug you.
But I will say, and I didn't involve them a lot in caring for Al. For one thing, my son soon moved away, to go to college. But for another thing, I guess I I wanted to shelter them, I guess.
You're
Yeah.
good, Mom.
Yeah.
That's
That makes sense.
That's a good mom.
But in sheltering them, did you have any support around you? Like, were you just navigating this alone?
So I had some good friends at work were good listeners, and they gave me some of the ideas that I would use. Because remember, I was in special education, so we were used to
Mm-hmm.
young people who weren't quite themselves, what we'd
Yes.
expect. So, but I'll tell you, I was so glad to retire so that I could go to the support group that was being held. It was about 40 miles away, once a month. And that support group was started by a woman who was a couple of years ahead of me in the disease process. Her husband was a couple of years ahead. And she realized she needed a support group, so she started one.
Wow.
So here we were.
Is this your friend Bonnie?
It's my friend Bonnie.
Yes.
Big love to Bonnie.
Yes.
Yeah. And Bonnie is still leading. She actually has 3 support groups a month, I think now.
Wow.
2 on Zoom and 1 in person. We had 22 people show up last week. And it's not just FTD, but it's people who are dealing with all different kinds of dementia. But we kind of specialize, as it were, with people who are with loved ones who are having more difficult behavior.
Can I ask? I fully support groups. I saw my dad. That was invaluable. Like, that was the best thing he did. But could you describe for our listeners, like, what did that support group give you? Was it the practical tips that really helped? Was it the emotional support? Like, maybe just dig in a little bit into how it carried you.
It was all of the above. First of all, it is just so much relief to be in a room with a bunch of other people going through what you're going through, what you've been going through alone.
Mm-hmm.
And time and again, people leave that meeting after the first meeting they attend, saying, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
But also you learn from other people's stories, people who are a little ahead of you. I remember at that first meeting, a woman described how it was easier to shave her husband when he was lying in bed.
Hmm.
And I kind of thought, note to self. And I never had to do that, actually, for different reasons. But, oh, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah, put it in your toolbox
Yep.
of
Right.
tips. Yeah.
And what really helped, actually, a couple months later, a woman spent a long time telling the group how her dad had been in assisted living and had gotten agitated in the middle of the night. And she and her brothers were called at 1 a.m. to go pick him up. And I thought, okay, be really careful if you need a facility, get one that will manage these things.
Yeah.
Right.
Huge.
Because I was alone. My nearest family members were 800 miles away. So I couldn't, if Al had been unmanageable, I would have been up the creek.
Yeah.
And there were some times.
Yep.
Yep.
So thank you so much for explaining that, because I think going to a support group can be intimidating if you've never done something like that, or, you think, I could do it on my own. What are they going to tell me? They're not going to understand. So
and not everybody wants to share. Not
No.
everybody wants to share.
And I think it's also good maybe if you just go sit on it and you listen. Like,
Yeah.
she picked up a tip the first day about the shaving.
Yes.
It's like,
try it.
yeah,
Try it.
just give it a shot. So thank you for explaining that. Could you take us back into the journey? Like, we get the diagnosis. How are you setting up care for him? You're getting all your resources, you're joining your support group, but like, how do things progress?
So one of the things I was worried about, because I think in the early stages when they are still physically capable and they're mentally capable of getting themselves in big trouble.
Yep.
Yes.
I knew I needed to set up an estate plan. And so when my daughter was home I guess both my kids were home from college, all 3 of us interviewed a couple of lawyers.
Oh, good. Okay.
And we found one kind of nearby. And thank goodness nothing terrible happened, but we needed to have an estate plan set up, and that was one of the things that we did. And it was really funny, given the area where I live, there was this assumption that since I had a different last name, how did that go, from my husband, and my kids were there, I think there was an assumption that it was a second marriage.
Oh.
I love assumptions. You're like, let me tell you the last X amount of years I've spent with this man.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So you guys get your estate plan. What
Mhm.
is Al's behavior like? Is it progressing? Is he mellowing out? Tell us sort of like what's...
It's progressing. And back to the estate plan. So we chose this one particular lawyer who happened to be within walking distance of us. And Al and I went together and formulated the whole thing, mostly me. And then we had a trust. And there came a time when we needed to take his name off not take his name off the trust. We needed to make sure that he was not a trustee anymore.
Yeah, can access, yeah.
And the lawyer said, don't worry, I'll handle this. And I was thinking, oh, how's this going to go? We went to that meeting, and he explained to Al, he said, Al, I know you know that things aren't quite right with you right now, and we need your signature on this so that Catherine can take care of you. And Al signed it, but he kind of cried.
Like a surrender.
Drops of tears. And the lawyer later told me that he was glad to see that because he meant that Al at least understood what he was signing.
Right. Oh.
And what are you feeling in that moment?
Relieved that he wasn't mad, for sure. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I was worried about.
You're just focused on him.
Of course. Your spouse.
She's the best.
Sorry that I neglected to tell you something kind of important in my story.
That's okay.
And that is that before I knew Al, back in about 1970 or 69, when he was a college student and a member of a fraternity, he sustained quite a head injury. And when I first met him, he would say, I used to be smarter before my skull fracture. But I never noticed it. He seemed perfectly bright. He could memorize things. He was good at math, blah, 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 blah. But when all this started happening and it wasn't looking like typical Alzheimer's, I was thinking, oh, this is because of the head injury. And I gave all the information to the neurologists, and they were like, well, we can't tell that, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But I went through this whole disease process thinking, how much of this is from the head injury?
I get that. Somebody take this. I don't want to just think it's from...
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we've heard that before about a head
Oh, yeah.
injury. I think it was in an episode yesterday.
I
that we
also think
recorded.
it's like on the news, like all these football players that are getting these like massive,
like concussions.
Yeah.
And
They're studying. It's like they named it already, like
Yeah, it's chronic, let's see, CTE.
Yes.
CTE.
Yes.
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Yeah. And it's like, it's causing weird behaviors. And he's like,
It does, but it has a different pathology.
Okay. Yes.
So when they look at a brain, they can tell you don't have it or don't have it. Another really important coping mechanism for me was to read everything. Just read. So I read some books about CTE.
Okay. I remember when my dad was going in, I'm like, I hope it's a brain tumor.
Right.
Like the things that we think, like maybe it's removable. Maybe he'll go back to normal. Like you're grasping at straws. Anyway.
So did you plan to try and keep Al at home? Were his behaviors manageable?
So I did plan to keep Al at home. For some reason, we think keeping them at home is the gold standard of care. And I was really wanting to do that, not to mention that it's expensive to do it the other way.
Right.
But he got more and more difficult. And also, kind of in those first years, I signed him up for research at UCSF. because I happened to have family property a couple of hours away, and it was good to be able to visit that property. He had a sister who lived within, a couple hours of UCSF.
Good for
So
you.
we started going there, and at UCSF, we actually had a family meeting with Bruce Miller, Dr. Bruce Miller,
Wow.
the name.
Yeah.
And one of the first things that he said was, hey, we've looked at all this testing, and this doesn't look like FTD. He is not apathetic enough. He's too engaged, and he's showing some other aspects of this disease that are more like Alzheimer's. So that added to the curiosity and the confusion.
Of course.
He's
not
and
apathetic enough. Turn on the apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
because Al would get really upset. In fact, at the meeting, he was, all you're talking about is everything that's wrong with me. I hate this. I don't, and I think he surprised folks because of that. So we went to 1 week-long study, and then we went back for our 6th month, and that was just a day. And we had to go back for another MRI because they realized they had to sedate him a bit for MRIs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized I wasn't going to be able to bring him anymore because I just, the thought of either getting on a plane or driving 2 days, either one of those, it was just going to be impossible. So I thought, man, I need a break.
Yeah.
So I put him in the nursing home that I had determined would be best for him for a respite period. And my daughter had come out. She was going to accompany us to San Francisco. And when we were going to San Francisco, she and I just took we went hiking and did some nice stuff together. And when I brought him home, things seemed to be okay. But the first night he did some weird stuff. He wanted to go to bed right away, and he did some kind of banging around upstairs. I remember texting Bonnie that first night, and she said, now be careful. The next night, he was downstairs in the kitchen, and he was like grabbing old newspapers and tearing them up. And I was like, fine, this is okay. He's not doing any damage. And he shoved some into a wastebasket and seemed to turn away. And I went to pull it out of the wastebasket and put it in the recycling. And he grabbed my arm and twisted it and pulled it up over my head. And I could tell that I wasn't Catherine and he wasn't Al.
Yeah.
I could just tell this was off. This was weird. And I had given him his regular medication. It didn't seem to have kicked in. So that's when I slipped out the back door and called 911. And when the police deputy came, I met him in the front yard to explain everything because I didn't want this to look like he was.
Right.
Yes, of course. Yes.
And how did that go explaining? Were they like, okay, we understand? Did they question you? Because I know
He
this
was-
is a scenario that happens.
The deputy was pretty cool. He said, okay, you've told me, now let's go in the house. And, I unlocked the front door and we walked in, and Al behaved rather strangely. First, he kind of tussled. They were both sort of arm in arm this way. And of course, the deputy was so much stronger and bigger. It was just, real mild. And the guy was trying to call him Mr. Stevenson. And I said, he might not know that term. Why don't you call him Al? And then I started walking across the room, and Al followed right behind me, just oddly, kind of huffing like Darth Vader.
Oh, gosh, how terrifying for you.
And then he walked over to the sink, the kitchen sink, and he put all his weight on the spigot and literally bent it. And in the meantime, cell phones, smartphones were brand new at that time. This was 2012. And the deputy had the presence of mind to film all this.
Wow.
So then he said, he's not safe here. You're not safe here. I can't take him to jail, of course, he said. So I'm going to have him taken to the hospital. And I said, well, please don't have sirens come when the ambulance comes. And so they kind of had to manhandle him to get him into the ambulance. And then I followed. And by the time I got there, the drugs had taken effect and Al had fallen asleep. So the deputy's video to the ER doctor were what led him to say, you need to place him. And so I had permission, shall we say. And I think people need permission sometimes.
Yes.
So I had permission. And actually, when Al woke up, he was quite pleasant. I took him home that night, and I drove him to the nursing home the next day, not telling him where we were going, which I felt a little guilty about, but I didn't want to have any trouble.
Yeah, of course, after what you
just have been. I'm so sorry. That must have been traumatizing.
I mean, it's like right at the edge of the cliff, and you're like, I just need to get to the other side. You had made the decision prior, or well, I guess maybe not. Maybe you were playing with the idea.
Actually, I had made the decision the night before when he had been weird. And I had called up the nursing home and said, I'll bring him in on Monday, just assuming that things didn't run on weekends,
Right.
Yep.
But of course, in nursing homes, they run 24/7.
Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up about, you said Bonnie told you, like, be careful. Do you think it was because you said he was acting strange, or do you think she had some insight that him being in the respite was going to rattle him? Like, it's very ominous that she's like, be careful.
I think because she heard him upstairs, kind of.
I was texting Bonnie, the dog and the cat and I are down here in the main room, and Al is upstairs, and I'm hearing a lot of thumping and bumping upstairs.
Be careful. I'm so happy, knock on wood, my experience with FTD was never physical. But as you're looking at this man who you said, I do, a few years before, we won't say how many, like, what is going through your mind other than like, please don't attack me? Like, are you sad? Are you angry? Are you scared? Like, what? I mean, as you're saying it, I feel like I know maybe what your kitchen looks like now that I've put myself in it. But like, what's going through? He's docile, and then all of a sudden he's like Darth Vader breathing behind you. What's going on in your body?
I was quite stressed, as in the edge of agitation.
Yeah.
I know there's a better term for it. It's not coming to me right now, but I was pretty terrified. I will say that. And I was thinking in terms of, how are we going to get through this? We just have to get through this.
Yeah.
And I have to say that when I called 911, I grappled with calling 911 for about 5 minutes or so outside. I was just really thinking, should I do this?
Yeah.
Am I overreacting?
And meanwhile, he's just like,
did the right thing. It's beautiful too. Like, our motto, accept the good. Like, I'm just seeing these little angels appearing throughout your journey. The doctor saying, I trust family members. The deputy being like, I'm going to film this. And honestly, I thought you were going to say they were going to take him into jail, because sometimes that does happen.
I know.
And for him to say, I'm going to take him to the, like, you are being protected somehow,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you don't have FTD and you're rough with your spouse, like you're out of there.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I think, yes, some puppeteer was up there.
Sometimes, like, I'm sure you've probably heard this in the support group, sometimes the spouse can, or someone living with FTD can, like, kind of come to and be very charismatic. If there's, law enforcement present or a doctor around, they like kind of show off and they seem fine. And then the spouse is like, you're not seeing what I see on a normal basis. But these people around you were like on the same page as you.
I want to talk about the nursing home placement, Because I know as a kid, making the decision to put my dad in there was like, I pictured myself on a fence. Like I see what I have to do, but the guilt and the I should be able to, or is this giving him the best light? Like I teetered, even though I knew the best place for him and the best place for him for me.
Mhm.
How did you, I think safety is probably the number one reason, but was there ever a point in you that was like, I'm just going to go pick him up. He needs to be at home. Like, were you ever back and forth, or were you solid with this decision?
I was pretty solid with it.
Good.
By the time he went in, he was getting to be pretty nonverbal.
Okay.
He had pretty much lost continence. And what I discovered right away is that the people in the home knew how to clean him far better than I did.
Yeah.
They kept him so much cleaner. They knew what they were doing in it. And this is one of the few nursing homes in the state, I think, that can manage these difficult behaviors. This nursing home had a doctor on site 4 days a week, I think, and a PA.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so once we moved him there, I never put him in a car again, because the dentist happened to be right across the parking lot.
Yeah.
So
isn't that funny? Like, I never put my dad in the car either after that until he died,
Really?
and then they took his body in the car. He hadn't been in one. How funny that you should bring that up. I've never thought about that until now. Ugh.
And it just so happened that the place that could manage these difficult behaviors was near your home?
no, it was 30 miles away.
30 miles. Okay.
So after the first year and the dog died, I moved to an apartment that was kind of across the street from his home. And for me, that was great. I've always wanted to live where I could walk my errands, and I knew that would be the errand I would do the most. So there were times when I could show up at the nursing home just to make sure that a certain pill was being administered and just go back home again. That was particularly important before dental visits, that we needed to have him take an Ativan. So I would show up at about the time when the Ativan should be administered and make sure it happened, and then I could go back home, and then I could come back and get him and walk to the dentist's office.
That's
so
convenient.
And the other, since we're talking about accepting the good, the other very cool thing is that there's a nice big park right next door to this nursing home, and I would take him on a good long walk, about 1.5 miles, whenever I would visit.
And what was the marriage like? I mean, you're not living together. You're his caregiver, physically, mentally, you're carrying all of it for him. Are you resentful? Are you angry? Do you love him? Like, what's going on for you during this part of his disease?
Definitely not resentful and angry. And the love changes. It's like loving a child. It's like loving somebody in a completely different way, loving somebody who can't really reciprocate, but you really care about them. You care about how they're being cared for. And that's where I think you mentioned somewhere in your notes that, caregiving doesn't stop when your loved one goes into a nursing home. They need you to advocate for them. So I felt like I was out of jail. I could still do what needed to be done for him, but I had the freedom to
live a life.
Yeah, and I did.
Let's talk about the grief for a moment, because did you feel like you were conscious of grieving that relationship while you're caregiving, or did that happen after Al passed?
So I don't grieve deeply. My grief wouldn't wouldn't play well in Hollywood. Let's put it that way.
That's a great way to say it.
I don't grieve deeply, but what I've noticed in, say, how I lost my parents, and Al, is that in the early stages when we're getting the diagnosis and finding out that this thing is going to happen, I tend to get angry. I tend to be angry about the diagnosis or about something. And this is going to sound really weird, but for a very long time, I was really angry that people understood Alzheimer's, but they didn't understand FTD. And people would say,
You're angry at that all the time,
all
too.
the time.
And people would say to me, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Does he still know you?" And I'd think, it's not my problem at all.
Yeah. He won't stop tearing the newspaper. Like, they have no...
You have no idea what it's like.
Right. My husband paces for 4 hours a day. Yes, he knows me, but he doesn't give me the time of day.
I had to call...
It's, yeah. People. Okay. Yes, we agree with you.
100%. That's interesting, though, that you know about yourself that you are not a
deep griever.
A deep griever. So something that I do in my grief is I judge my own grief. Did you ever question yourself, why am I not? Or did you just accept it about yourself?
Actually, one of the ways that I found out that some other people don't grieve as much as I do was by doing a quick online search. And I just found a couple people who said, yeah, I don't grieve much either. And then I've been talking to people a lot lately about that. And a number of people had said, yeah, I know what you mean. So there are the people who just, they just can't give it up. They're just, this was not the way my life should have been. And I have never felt that way. Maybe because I've spent some time in other countries where people don't live as well. And I've spent some time with other families where there's been a major disability in a child. And I know that there's no supposed to. And
that's
so
very powerful.
Yes.
I think it's, I love grief.
You love talking about it.
I love
like
talking
the
about
study
grief.
of,
But I also love the beauty of it. I think it's poignant and all that. Can you tell me what it feels like for you when you're grieving? I know it's not a deep feeling. Does it feel more towards the surface, not as guttural? What does it feel like for you?
There might be a piece of music that plays that causes me to cry for a bit, not very long. And then that's kind of it. It's, well, I wish this were this way, but it's not, it's just not real powerful. It's not at all debilitating. And I'm so happy that they're not suffering anymore.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
I mean, who wanted to live like our loved ones live? I mean, even in the best nursing home, they're not having a great time.
Right.
I feel like you're just a very processed.
Yeah,
you, it's very it doesn't serve me to be that upset. Yes, I'm sad, but and then I cry and then I put it over there and I, what has been the most griefy
or the hardest?
Yeah, the hardest part. I'm sure there are other spouses out there that are nodding real hard at this episode. But I'm wondering, is there a piece of wisdom other than the shaving laying down, that you can what has been helpful? What has been hard?
Here's a piece of information that I think everybody should know if they're going through this. When you're going through it, the time is now. You're seeing your loved one however they are. You're dealing with that person who can't talk anymore or who can't get up out of a chair or you have to be worried that the motorcycle going by is going to cause them to get really angry. The important thing to know is that after they go, and in my case, it started a little bit before he died, I had a dream about him as his normal self. And then after they go, your memories go back to that time before the disease.
Yeah.
And that, I think a lot of people fear that the only thing they'll remember is the diseased person, but that doesn't seem to be what happens.
That's like our whole.
But I think when you're so in the trenches, you can't.
No.
That's when the person comes into your mind. You see them in the wheelchair, and
but this is why we started this.
Right.
It was born out of my fear that all I was going to remember was the disease, because it was a full.
Well, it took
every
over.
second.
Yeah.
Was this person who was different. And I mean, I'm on the opposite end. I am a very deep griever.
You're just an emotional.
I'm a very highly sensitive person, maybe.
Extreme.
Yes. Yeah. So it was like, it was all consuming. And then what a gift to be able to, I don't know, have Al visit you in your dreams and like get that back at the forefront, of your mind.
Yeah.
At this point in his disease, and we'll get to who he was before, because I felt like that was a good, but I'm interested as you are a parent who has encountered this with a spouse, do you feel responsible? Not responsible. Do you feel like you have to now become, well, I guess your kids were older. Like, did you have to become mom and dad? Like, did the relationship with your kids change after this experience? Did you guys get closer? Did you feel like, what did anything?
How did it impact?
Yeah.
The
did it
family
transpire?
dynamic?
Yeah.
Because of the gradual onset of the disease that seemed to start when my older one was in high school, I think I was already sort of the main parent that they would come to anyway. What is really gratifying is that once he was in the nursing home and they were getting a little older, there's this wonderful thing that happens when they get to be about 30, especially with the boys.
Please tell us. We're on the edge of our seat.
My son at one point actually apologized for his teenage years.
I'm going to have your son call
Catherine
my son.
Gets so many little gifts.
Catherine, if my son ever apologizes, I'm going to feel like the world's best mom.
My daughter was so appreciative that I was doing all the care, that I was caregiving. And I think both of them were, but my daughter particularly said, and apparently she went to see some friends of ours that lived not too far away from where we lived. And they asked her something about what I was going through. And apparently she said something like, "My mom is amazing." And you don't get to hear that too much, even in the best situations.
You are amazing.
I think you're just like, we interview a lot of people and everyone's story is very different. But this one felt step A, step B, like everything we just handle it. Like there was no rigmarole. There was no like
chaos.
It was just like, I'm not safe here. I'm going to call the police. Like this happened, so I did this.
You handled it.
Yeah, you handled it. So you are amazing, and your daughter's right. And big props to your son. I'm going to have him call mine. Give him a pro tip. My kid's 10, but still, he doesn't ever say I'm a good mom.
I should also say, and I don't know how I didn't bring this up earlier, but when I mentioned that I read everything to try to get through this journey. I read memoirs, I read, science-y stuff, and I felt like nobody was talking about the behavior. And so I started writing about the behavior. And it started on a day when I was upstairs with my breakfast plate in one hand and my coffee in the other, trying to get my husband to take a shower. And I went downstairs after that. He didn't take the shower, by the way. I went downstairs and typed up an email to my sister. And she typed back and said, wow, I feel like I'm right there. So I started writing. And after he moved into the nursing home, I started taking some writing courses through our evening university classes. And finally, many years later, I published the book last year. So it's called Something Happened to Al, a Dementia Chronicle. And I, as you mentioned, that you find it flows better if you talk about the disease in some sort of chronological order. I purposely wrote it in chronological order for other caregivers to read. And several people in our support group have read it and felt like it really scratched that itch. It really helped them see what it can be like to go through all this.
Was it a therapeutic exercise for you to get it from up here and in here out?
You know, I was thinking that it wasn't, but then the other day something happened to me and I wrote about that and I thought, who am I kidding? Yes, this is therapeutic.
Right. Writing.
And I wonder if that's why the grief isn't debilitating. Is it because you are processing it?
Maybe, and it's also just not deep in there. I think there are people who grieve like light, like it's just not like a, you know, that feeling, that feeling in your tummy, right? When you grieve, like when I found out my dad died, I'm like, I'm hollow.
Right.
Yes. You know, like that feeling where you're just like, am I still here? What's,
you know me, I'm always like, what's the reason?
Yeah. You're like ChatGPT. Is this normal?
Yeah.
Okay, I think writing is not the most. I think therapy is great too. But I think writing it gets it out. It flushes your internal turmoil and it gets it from up here somewhere else.
And you get that, I don't know what the word is for it, but like you're helping others. You're knowing like, because I'm going to write this, right, I'm going to make someone feel less alone or help them navigate or help them get out of a scary violent situation. Yeah. Like, you know that you're taking that pain and you're turning it into like a guide for someone else. And I don't know how to say it.
And
you know
I really had that in the back of my mind, that there was particularly a chapter about intimacy that I don't like to put all that out there. Sure, and it doesn't go into too much, but it was just like, you get to a point where you don't want to be in bed with this person.
Right. Of course.
And I had to write about that because people needed to hear that, even though I really didn't want to include it.
Sure.
But it needed to be there.
Yeah. Yes. Right. I think it's powerful. I think writing is a powerful tool, but I also think, like Maria said, it's like a guidebook to someone else. Like, it's okay that you feel that you don't want to lay next to this person. Like, I get
They're
it.
not them.
Right.
They're not them.
Right.
You know?
But I think it's a good time to talk about who he was.
Yes. So we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be right back.
Okay.
Hey, quick pause here because we need to talk about something that often gets overlooked.
Oh, that single leftover sock.
No.
The spot in your kitchen that collects random things.
Mine is overloaded right now.
Well, you have little kids. I'm sure there's a random rock and a half-eaten granola
Little
bar.
cars.
Ooh, a plastic dino, I'm sure.
Well, I'm talking about caregivers. Caregivers, although they usually feel invisible, are the real MVPs. And you know who celebrates them?
I surely do, but I think you're talking about the Remember Me Foundation.
Yes, the Remember Me Foundation is all about creating that space for you, support, community, and reminders that you matter too.
It's about remembering the person you love and remembering yourself along the way.
Check it out in the show notes. I promise that the little moments of support can make a big difference.
Because caring well starts with caring for you too.
Let's shift. I really want to know. I don't feel like I know that much about Al. So could you tell us what Al was like before FTD?
When I met him, we were students in a education of the hearing impaired program at Columbia University in New York City. And I had come down from Rhode Island, where I'd been living just a couple of years, and he had come from Ecuador, where he had been a Peace Corps volunteer for 5 years.
Wow.
And had volunteered at a school for the deaf. Those were the best years of his life. He just loved it. His Spanish was really good. And I kind of got him into backpacking. My family had been backpacking family. And he was from Idaho. He'd grown up in Idaho. I'd grown up in California. Woo. We didn't want to stay in New York City. And so we got our first jobs together. And he was the guy, if you were having friends over for games, he was the guy who explained the game, who explained the rules. He was the guy who, if you went out with a bunch of people and you needed to split up the bill, this is way before what we can do now. He was the guy who would take the bill and to the penny figure out what each person owed. Wow. He was the guy he was loyal to a fault. I never distrusted him about anything. He could not tell a lie. He just physically could not tell a lie. So it's a good thing I was the caregiver, because you have to tell some lies.
Yes, you do. Little fibs. Yep.
Therapeutic fibs, we call them. Yes. So he used a lot of Spanish phrases. I don't speak Spanish yet. I'm learning. But I have all these phrases that he used to say. Like for drinking, it would be arriba, abajo, al centro, al dentro. He loved being around a lot of other people. He was very comfortable with women, which was good because he worked in public schools. And he had all these little sayings that he liked. And none of them he'd made up. They were all sayings he'd picked up from somewhere else. But if he was in a meeting, he would say, moving right along, because he hated meetings. He'd try to keep things going. And I think the saying that I put it on the little bookmark that we passed out at his memorial. You win some, you lose some. Some are rained out, but you always suit up.
That's a great one. That's a really good one. You always suit up. Yes, we do.
Tell us what he was like as a partner.
I didn't quite realize it until later. But he would not want to do something, but if you signed him up to do it, he would do it. And that came in handy when he was sick, because he hated going to those appointments. But if he had an appointment, he would go. He was also pretty frugal, except with his own stuff. He was happy to spend money on CDs, his stamp collection, and his baseball cards.
Baseball cards.
So we were able to work that out. When I realized how much money was being spent, we started a budget and he stuck to it.
So did that spending habit, was that one of the behaviors? Did that escalate with his FTD or?
No.
Okay.
Thank goodness. He was such a frugal guy. We did get caught in fraud once, and he lost. Actually, we didn't lose anything because it all came back, but he lost on the order of $39.
Okay.
And we never had trouble with that. We had to go down to the bank, and she had to, reopen new bank accounts for us and blah, 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 blah. But, he never did anything again like that. Oh, and so not only could he not tell a lie, he couldn't break a law either. So That meant he wasn't a big druggie.
That was the key word for didn't use.
Yeah.
How do you think Al would like to be remembered?
And I'm glad I heard this on your other podcast because I had to think about this. I think he would want to be remembered as the guy who never missed a day. He was the guy who, he never missed a day of work. He would work sick. And so he was there. You could count on him.
He always suited up.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's good.
You already read something so great, that one phrase that he would say, but what do you have to read for us today to end our episode?
I'm going to read you something, I hope this is okay, from late in the disease, where he communicated nonverbally.
Yes, it's perfect.
Last week when Al wasn't able to walk down the hall, I thought his feet might be hurting, so I removed his shoes and socks. His toenails were well trimmed, his feet clean. No lesions or blisters. Good. He seemed to like the feel of my hands on his foot, so I gave it a gentle massage. After a minute or so, I moved my hands to the other foot. He shook his first foot in a deliberate gesture as if to say, "This one. Keep rubbing this one." It has become so rare for him to express a preference or a need. These split-second episodes, maybe one a day or one a week, give reason to marvel and rejoice.
That was beautiful. I can picture the foot. No, do this one.
Isn't it crazy? Like those little things that you're like,
yeah, you're like,
He's
wait, you're in
communicating.
there.
Yes,
You're saying that you
yes.
want this over that. Yeah, I know.
Yes.
I used to love that. Or when they,
You know, there's another one I want to read.
Sure.
And this was back in the very beginning. I hope I never do anything to hurt you, Al says. This is a rare, sweet moment of clarity. He does, at some level, know about the behavior associated with FTD, though he doesn't realize he has already exhibited some of it. I put my forehead to his. It will be all right, I say. I don't want to die. You won't die, at least not soon. Al nods and seems to be consoled with a hug.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode.
If you want to learn more about Remember Me, you can go to remembermeftd.com.
We also love getting new Instagram followers, and you can follow us at Remember Me Podcast.
We're also building a space just for you at the Remember Me Foundation. For more information or to donate, visit remembermefoundation.org.
This podcast is produced by Maria Kent Beers
And Rachel Martinez.
and the beautiful music you hear is a song called So Damn Lucky by Bailey Kent.